Hey, baby, let's make it happen, Captain. All right, what's going on, good people? It's your boy 3 Stacks in this thing, baby. And today I'm coming at you guys with an update for VENDREADs. Boy, I've been waiting for this one. Y'all have been waiting for this one. I've been waiting for this one, too. This list is popping, bro. It's fire. I love it. Oh, it's so amazing, you guys. It's like more fun. This list is the most fun VENDREAD list that I have ever made. It's VENDREAD SHIRANUIs. I also incorporated Doom King, some glow bulbs. I wanted a lot of different plays. I wanted my deck to have a plethora of options. I didn't ever want to have a hand that just had only one line of play and that play got shut down. So now I have to pass turn and get OTK'd with the Boar Sword or some nonsense like that. Like, I wanted this deck to have so many different toolboxes and engines. Not necessarily engines, but so many different toolboxes and options for the plays that it can make, that it would have a backup plan. And I really like that it has a lot of follow-ups and contingencies. The deck is pretty consistent. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't had hands where I just literally couldn't make plays, where I just bricked so bad that I had to pass. Like, my worst hands, I was able to put out a couple disruptions, which is just like one or two. Like, the worst just being one where it was just like a Slayer, I had a Slayer, and a couple other things on the field. But I really like the deck. It's functioning very well. It's actually pretty powerful. And it has the potential to nab a few tops, I believe. Like, it can catch a lot of people off guard, and it does have somewhat meta viability, but I'm not gonna say it's just absolutely gonna dominate every single meta deck in the current format. Like, it's just not, you know. Like, it's unfortunately sad but true. But just for the simple fact that you do have the ability to control what your opponent does, that this deck can make Borload Savage Dragon, that this deck can put out disruptions like that this deck can make Doom King, you're able to interrupt your opponent's plays. And if your interruptions are enough, then you can still wins. But we're going to hop into my list, you guys. Let's go ahead and do it. All right, so we're going to start off with the VENDREADs. First and foremost, we're playing 3 copies of Slayer. So Slayer is the best summon that you can commit to in this entire deck. There is no other monster in this main deck that gives you that much of a payout just by summoning him. He's the most rewarding play that you can make. He also gives you all of your extenders, your follow-ups. He actually enables more combos just by using him as like as a link material or as a fusion. As a link material or a synchro material than he would just leaving him on the field. But you do have scenarios where you have to leave him on the field. You have to tribute a Hound Horde to summon him, so that way you have interruptions against Geist and Strikers being able to banish a spell or trap on their field during either player's turn. It's somewhat of a play to make, but it's your worst case scenario. It's kind of like your backup. If you just have no other option, you're going to summon Slayer and sit on him. But oftentimes when I summon Slayer, I don't sit on him because he's that broken. And with the Shiranuis, it's... Oh! It's even better with the Shiranuis. He has this ability where if he attacks, he can banish a zombie. It's the last part of his effect. So basically, when this card battles an opponent's monster during damage calc, as a quick effect, you can banish 1 zombie monster from your graveyard, and then he gains 300 attack. Which is really cool because there are certain effects that you can get whenever like certain monsters are banished, which is really cool. So Slayer has kind of some cute plays that he can make outside of just his actual effect. And also just setting up your banish zone in general, even if you don't get the effect, just setting up your banish zone in general. The banish zone is another pool of resources that this deck can access. It's not necessarily in the Kurute Mat. The Kurute Mat is the actual Slayer itself, but it gives you another toolbox that you can access in your mid to late game. When you're grinding, your banish zone becomes a larger pool of resources for you to tap into. We're playing 1 copy of Battlelord. Battlelord is stronger going second than he is going first. I just wholeheartedly believe that. I believe it's absolutely correct if you're going against Geist and Strikers to drop this guy and call spells or traps. And if your opponent does not have a response, well, I guess for the rest of the turn, they won't be able to respond. So this card literally either forces a negation, or if they can't negate it, then they can't do anything else for the rest of that turn. And you naturally can OTK with this deck without a Boar Sword, which is awesome. I'm also placing 1 copy of Chimera. Chimera is a really powerful card. It has a very similar protection to Stardust, but it's not that broken. It's not as, I guess you could say, versatile as Stardust is. But what Chimera does is basically, if exactly 1 card on the field would be destroyed, you can banish the zombie from your graveyard instead. What's really cool about that is obviously the Shiranuis have amazing effects when they get banished. I would argue to say that some of the best effects of the Shiranuis are when they are banished. So it's really cool that you can interrupt your opponent's plays by protecting yourself from what they were using to get rid of your cards, which is really awesome. Like, a cool example is Afterburner to target a monster and pop it. and you can use Chimera to negate that. And he negates the activation, and he does destroy it. So I'm sorry that I said banish the zombie instead. It's not like a replacement like return. He actually does negate it and destroy it, which is really cool. And basically, you could banish something like Spirit Master to negate a card, then pop a multi-roll. You can banish something like Shiranui Solitaire, or some of the new cards that came out in Savage Strike, and you can enable more plays. And I believe the only downside to this card is that he's actually like a once per turn, like a hard once per turn, which kind of sucks. He does have another effect that's pretty irrelevant that I never use. And then we have one copy of Executor. So when you can drop Executor in Chimera, you have this kind of soft lock where you have multiple layers of protection on your board. Where this guy says that all cards on your field except for him, and that's all cards, spells, traps included, cannot be targeted by your opponent's card effects. He's the only one that can. And naturally, what your opponent will do if they're trying to target your stuff is they'll have to target him first, or they'll try to get rid of him. So if they try to get rid of him with an effect that's not like targeting to negate or targeting to shuffle, you can use Chimera to protect him, which kind of keeps the kind of like a soft lock on your board enabled. Another awesome thing about this guy's effect is he adds a VENDREAD card from deck to hand, and that's something we really needed because before he came out, we never actually had a card in the archetype that searches any VENDREAD card. Another awesome thing is his level. Because he's level 8, he's the only VENDREAD ritual monster that you're able to actually get off VENDREAD Houndhorde and Revenants, plus an additional VENDREAD of your choice. Every other one of these, you will not be able to do that because you can't. You have to take the low road. Whenever you're ritual summoning, you can't just add levels on top of what you already have. Once you've equaled or exceeded the amount, based on the number of monsters you use for ritual summoning, you can't go past that. So when you're summoning Battlelord and Slayer and Chimera, you can use both Revenants and you can also use Houndhorde, but you can't add anything else on top of that. But Executor, you can. So that's like food for thought, just so you know. Like, that's what makes him even more powerful as a card in this particular archetype. So we're going to move forward to the VENDREADs that are not ritual. So we're playing one of each for the namesakes. Normally, most of my pure VENDREAD lists, I play multiple Animas because this card is amazing in the grind game, and it fetches back virtually any of the resources that you need, which you actually, if your hand is if your hand's more VENDREAD oriented, you go through all of these in one turn, which is really cool. But Anima is arguably the best one for me personally, just because he gives me whatever I want in the particular scenario when I need it the most, if that makes sense. But Anima can banish itself to special a banished VENDREAD. This guy can banish a zombie from the graveyard to special itself in the graveyard. Houndhorde can discard a VENDREAD card to special him from the graveyard. Stride, if he's sent to the graveyard, you reveal a VENDREAD card, special him. So all four of these are extenders that allowed you to spam your board more, which is really nice. That's why resolving Slayer. Oh yeah, and Battlelord has a similar effect as well, like Slayer. When you resolve Slayer, you normally get to resolve Battlelord, and when you resolve Battlelord, you just get whatever you want at the moment, and everything kind of snowballs. And Revenants, he's the worst floater. He has to be destroyed by battle card effect, but he has one of the best effects. Then the other thing is all the VENDREADs have effects if they're attributed from the field specifically, which is very sad. Like, I wish it was just from the hand. But if they're attributed from the field specifically, they grant an additional effect that's a layering surplus that's conducive with the actual basic effects that the VENDREADs have. So you have these layers and they kind of stack on top of each other, and you have a VENDREAD that has 3 to 4 actual effects that he can use all in the same turn. So like this guy gives your VENDREAD ritual monster the ability to banish a special summon monster as a quick effect. Stride allows it to basically, I believe it's after damage calculation, if it battles, you can draw 1 card, then discard. So Stride just draw power, which is actually pretty nice because you will have cards that you need in your graveyard. So it's nice to be able to draw a fresh card and get the card that you needed in the graveyard in the first place. Houndhorde gives you basically a Cosmic Cyclone, banish the spell trap during your player's turn. Core, I believe he's the one that says neither player can target that VENDREAD monster. So there's also a cool lock that you can do with Executor where you get, basically if you use VENDREAD Revenants and Houndhorde and Core, and these get themselves on the field easily. This is the guy you have to commit to. But you tribute these, that's exactly 8. This guy says all the cards in your field can be targeted, but when you ritual summon him using Core, he can't be targeted. So for your guys in your Sky Striker matchups, that makes it that much harder for them to do anything they want because they can't Mold Seek or Impermanence or Soliquid, Afterburner, and they can't Widow Anchor, which makes it really hard. So now they have to contest with your cards through the effects of stuff that doesn't target or destroy, like Borreload, and that's where you can really get them because you have the ability to banish special summon monsters, so you can slow them down and prevent them from getting into that scenario. So that's it for the VENDREADs, you guys. Now we're going to go forward to the next package of the deck, which is the Shiranuis. We're playing 3 Solitaires. Even if I wasn't incorporating more Shiranuis into my deck, Solitaire is just a generic, amazing, powerful card for any zombie deck. This one card, you can capitalize off of so much advantage that it gives you. It's amazing. It's your hands can be as bricky as like a brick wall, and if you have a Solitaire in your hand, he can make your hand playable, especially for the simple fact that Unizombie allows you to discard cards from your hand to increase the level again, which allows you to unclog your hand, get your extenders that are only extenders in the graveyard, put them in the graveyard. Now they are extenders. So this guy makes your hands live. Normally when you have Solitaire in your hand, it doesn't matter what else is in your hand. And then we have 3 copies of Shiranui Squire. Squire is a newer card that came out in Savage. So you have to commit your normal summon to her, but very similar to Solitaire, she is a 1-card combo. She is the most powerful normal summon in this deck in your mid to late game, and I would suffice to say after turn 1. Now, I'm not very prolific with Shiranuis. I'm not necessarily the master. I'm not very adept at how the deck actually operates to like the maximum degree and extent. But I do know, very similar to most people that splash Shiranuis, that they have amazing effects if they get banished, and they banish themselves a lot. And as I'm playing with more Shiranuis, I'm starting to realize that I'm banishing my Shiranuis a lot more often, especially with the cards that I'm incorporating into my deck. This is a hybrid variation, and everything works in cohesion. It's the way I can elaborate it is this deck works like as if it was meant to be. These 2 engines are like meant to be together. But basically, Squire special summons a Spectral Sword monster from your hand or your deck when she's normal summoned. Now, there is another Shiranui Spectral Sword besides the actual Spectral Sword that we had before that came out in Savage Strike. That card has an amazing effect that allows it to actually banish its... I think it tributes or banishes itself, and it special summons 2 banished zombie monsters from your banish zone, including at least 1 Shiranui. So you can bring back your Mizuki and then a banished Shiranui monster, and that alone makes this an incredible 1-card combo in the mid to late game, because you can normal her, pop out that Spectral Sword dude, get his effect, bring out a Mizuki, get out another Shiranui, which could be a Solitaire. Solitaire can then start combos. Can you kind of understand how powerful this card can get? How many like snowballing effects, how many additional resources that you accumulate just by normal summoning a Squire. So like she gets way more powerful mid to late game, and I played 3 of her because she's nuts. Oh my goodness. And then if she's banished, you get to draw a card and discard a card, and all of her effects are amazing. She's just a good, well-rounded card. I would say Solitaire is what you want to start your combos with, but if you start with the Squire, you could just special the OG Spectral Sword, and you can still get somewhat of a play and a follow-up in your graveyard. I play 1 copy of Spirit Master. It's not because I like playing one of them. It's just more or less because my normal summons tend to clog, and his best effect is arguably when he's banished, but I would say that he's a really strong card, just like Squire in your mid to late game. The only problem with playing more than one of him is like he's only really going to be necessary if you need a target in your deck, because I play Swallow Slash. Other than that, your normal summons always go to either Squire, Solitaire, one of your VENDREAD monsters, and also you normal summon Unizombie and also a Gozuki a lot. Sometimes you even normal summon Glow Blue. So it's like you have so many other normal summons to commit to that the issue with this card is that he starts to conflict, and you never really want to see him in your hand unless it's literally in mid to late game. So that's a perfect reason for playing just 1 Spirit Master. And Spirit Master, if you guys didn't know, he reborns a Shiranui monster when he's normal summoned. Then if he's banished, he can pop a card, which is nice. And then both of the Spectral Swords, we have one of the OG and one of the newer one. The newer one is broken, you guys. The new Spectral Sword, oh my goodness gracious. I mean, Jesus. Oh my God, this card reminds me of when I read Amorphage Gluttony for the first time. I was like, oh my gosh. It's not just about what the card does. It's like what the cards that it brings out, what those do. Like, and let me make sure, does it tribute itself or does it, let's see. Oh yeah, it does. Okay, so I have to read you guys this card's effect because it's nuts. Oh my goodness, it's mind-boggling how powerful this card is. And even if you don't want to use this effect, if it's just as a starter card going second, you can use her to bring this out, and you can go into the new Squire Saga, and you can start systematically picking your opponent's board apart. So this guy so you can tribute this card, target 2 of your banished zombie monsters, except Spectral Sword Shade, including a Shiranui monster. So you can special 2 zombie monsters, but one of them has to be a Shiranui. You special them in defense, and then you negate their effects. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn, except zombie monsters, which is really cool. So one thing that you have to know is Mizuki has a graveyard effect, okay? So if you bring back Mizuki, you can use Mizuki's effect. In addition to that, if you bring out Solitaire, Solitaire can always pay costs. You can always pay costs and tribute himself. And I'm not quite prolific on that specific interaction, but if I am not mistaken, Solitaire attributing himself from the cost would still be able to resolve Engrave. But even if he doesn't, which is irrelevant, so there's no need to start a billion different arguments in the comment section over that. Even if it doesn't, it's the simple fact that you can bring back Mizuki and Solitaire, use Solitaire, attribute itself for costs, and guess what? You have Solitaire Engrave that you can revive back now off of Mizuki for later. But what gets more nuts is the fact that you can bring back stuff like this, stuff like these, link with them, link climb, and go into more like stuff like Vampire Sucker and the new Shiranui link. And then you can just banish them from grave with other different effects that you play in your deck. So this card is nuts mid to late game. It actually like allows you to make it kind of in a way, it enables a win condition that this deck never really had in the grind game. So I really wanted to play more of it, but I'm trying to keep it compact as possible. And also, there's still interactions where you can bring it back off of Spirit Master. It can be recycled from the Banish Zone into the deck, which is really cool. So you can get away with playing one. And then I'm still playing the OG Spectral Sword because you can also just link climb with this card. Well, I'm sorry, not link climb, but you go straight into Sucker. And then this card gives you a follow-up play in the graveyard whenever you want. And it gives you so many different options because it's a level 2. And you play a ton of different level monsters in your deck. So that's it for the Shiranuis. We play 3, 6, 9 Shiranuis. And ironic, I think we play how many VENDREADs? We play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 11. Okay. 11 VENDREADs, 9 Shiranuis. And then this is all just generic zombie stuff that makes every zombie deck playable. We have 3 copies of Unizombie. Bro, the epitome of playing a zombie deck is you want to send cards from your deck to your grave because zombies naturally tend to have amazing effects in the graveyard. So Unizombie is just broken, you guys. This guy's a 1-card combo, which makes Solitaire a 1-card combo. Like, this card's just nuts. Like, Unizombie is the best card. Like, not necessarily, like, the best card of the deck, but he is the most flexible 1-card combo of this entire deck. We have 3 Mizukis. We're playing Zombie World in this list, so Mizuki is that much more powerful, being that you can revive stuff that isn't even zombies just because of Zombie World, if people didn't know that common sense. We have 2 copies of Gozuki. Gozuki is the worst normal summon that you can make, because it doesn't have the extension that Unizombie provides, being able to dump cards with your hand. It doesn't give you the same play as Spectral Sword, as Squire and Solitaire, but at the same time, it still generates plays, which is very important. It's a normal summon that can still get you pretty far. Not to the extent that the other cards in the other normal summons can, but it does provide you a follow-up, and also just dumping an extender, as long as you have a specific valid target in a specific area, like whether it's Banish Zone or Grave, this card will get his other effect, which if you read on the bottom of it, you can only use each effect, but it does not say you can only use one effect. So that means you get both of his effects, and that's amazing as an extender play because you can always get his effect to special summon a zombie from the hand, and that helps a lot because I have clogged up hands with a lot of normal summons sometimes, so just having Gozuki to have that option for an extended play was just really good. Also, there's other ways you can dump this card to the graveyard, not just through Unizombie, your field spell, your VENDREAD Knights discards any card, and discards an if effect and not a win effect. You know, you have a lot of ways that you can prop Gozuki as an extender. So the Zukis, you have the 5 Zukis, you have the 9 Shiranuis, you have the 11 VENDREADs, and then Unizombie is just amazing. And then the final 3 monsters of my deck, I'm playing 2 Glow Blooms and 1 Doom King Baladrok, I believe it is, Baladrok. So the reason why we're playing 2 Glow Blooms, even though arguably one could say you only need 1 for the Doom King, he's not just here for Doom King. We're playing VENDREADs, and all of our ritual monsters are conveniently level 5 or higher. And if you read this card, if you send to the graveyard, you could banish them and add 1 level 5 or higher zombie monster from your deck to your hand, which is nuts. So it gives you more options in the sense that the first one can be used on whatever matters the most at that particular time. And the second one can be used to get whatever you need to go for your push for your OTK. So normally the first one does get used on the Doom King, and the second one ends up getting used on any VENDREAD that I need. In addition to that, when you have Zombie World, it obviously gets even better if you guys didn't know. And it's a tuner, which makes it that much better because I do synchro summon a lot with this deck. In fact, the main summoning mechanic that I'm focusing on with this deck is actually synchro summoning. Oftentimes, I do have effects that lock me into only zombies, but the beautiful like synergy with that is that the convenience of the Shiranuis is they're all zombie types, all the synchros. So that's it for the monsters. Now for our spells, we're playing 3 copies of VENDREAD Knights Even though it's a hard once per turn, the thing is I'm playing a very large deck. It is not 40 cards. So we're trying to maximize on our combo pieces, and this happens to be a combo piece that unbricks your hands. Even if this effect doesn't resolve, the fact that you can discard a card for cost and get something in the grave that you need makes it an extender and a starter card at the same exact time. So VENDREAD Knights is nuts. I'm also playing 2 copies of Zombie World. I felt that one just wasn't enough. I decided not to play Banshee because even in testing, I was not feeling like up to wasting a great effect to mill a zombie from deck to grave just on that one Banshee. Because normally when you have a hand where you can mill a Banshee, you have to mill a Glow Up Bloom. You're not able to mill the Bloom and the Banshee, so you can get both Zombie World and Ballardroke. So the problem is, like, you have to pick one, and every single time I'm going to pick Ballardroke. Why? Because even if I don't have Zombie World on the field, he still gives me interactions with VENDREAD Slayer, being that Slayer can banish a special summon monster your opponent controls. Then you can use Ballardroke to banish anything else that's in your way, which is really cool. So Slayer plus Ballardroke is not a bad setup. It's not like the best setup, but at the same time, it's not really the worst setup that you can go for, getting those interactions. But it's more nuts when you have Zombie World, because now, like, you blatantly have 4 interruptions. This has 2 interruptions, this has 2 interruptions, and they both can use each one of their effects, like, in the same turn. You don't have to pick one. You get all the effects. And Ballardroke can't use them in the same chain, but it's okay because you can actually mitigate that issue very easily just by dropping a Slayer next to him. So that's kind of like your worst-case scenario board, and it's not that bad. Actually, it still wins games. Zombie World's nuts, you guys. It really is. And it kind of screws over Thunder Dragons high-key. They have to, like, tribute Thunder-type monsters from their field to summon Colossus, and conveniently, they're all zombies. 2 copies of Terraforming, Optimus Prime. We have 5 field spells to search out, and, you know, we just need to maximize on seeing these kind of cards, especially for the simple fact that Zombie World is not searchable outside of this because I'm not playing Banshee, and it's for a very good reason. It's just the card was bricking me up more than it was helping me, and even when I was able to resolve it, I could not get Zombie World on the field and get Ballardroke. And if I'm going to choose between the two, I'm always going to choose Ballardroke because there's no real synergy that Zombie World has with any other plays in my deck. Even though it does make Mizuki powerful, it's like the main point of it is because Ballardroke is so insane with this card, and you can grind with one Ballardroke, just continually bringing it back from the grave as long as it doesn't get called by it. Outside of that, there are some other cute plays you can make with Zombie World, don't get me wrong. We have 3 of my favorite spells in the entire game of Yu-Gi-Oh! 3 pre-preparation of rights, bro. It's a +1, man. We play rituals faithfully. 3 copies of preparation right, a more flexible +1. And then we have 3 copies of VENDREAD Origin and 2 evolutions. So we're playing 2 evolutions because we kind of need to see it. We really do. We get desperate with seeing at least opening 1 ritual spell. If you can't open a ritual spell, there's a huge restriction and a hindrance on the options, the plays you can make, and how your board ends. It's never going to be as good as it could have been if you could have just summoned a Slayer. Like I told you guys, Slayer is an incredible card for extending all of your combo plays. So we need to see a ritual spell, but at the same time, you can only resolve 1 evolution unless you got one of your other plays, which allows you to shuffle a banished zombie from your banished zone to the deck. And that's the only time you can resolve the second one, because this has to send 1 of the same exact level from your deck to ritual summon 1 with the same exact level from hand or grave. So you're kind of just playing 2 because you need to maximize on seeing these cards. Like, I was thinking about just doing this ratio because it makes sense, but at the same time, increasing my percentage of seeing a ritual spell really matters, but I just can't play 3 of it in this list, even though it's not a 40-card deck. I just can't, because after I see 1, I can't afford to see the other ones because they're dead cards. And then I'm playing 2 VENDREAD Charge. Now, there is one card that I want you guys to know about. It's this, well, here's a bunch of cards that I was going to play, like more Zombie Worlds, Ballardroke, another Spectral. Consider this card, it has cute plays with Solitaire. But this is the card right here that people are going to ask for. And I was like thinking about DDR because I banished a lot. But this is the card people are going to ask for. And they're going to say, yo, 3 stack, so why aren't you playing this? So I actually chose VENDREAD Charge over this card for this list in particular. And the very obvious reason is just because I can't really resolve this card turn 1 unless I make a Summon Sorceress play. And I'm not even trying to make Summon Sorceress plays because there's not much that I can do with Summon Sorceress, especially when you consider, in addition to all those facts, that a lot of my effects hinder me from summoning anything except zombie types like that turn, which is, it really sucks. So this card also puts you under that restriction, but the main problem is your opponent has to control a monster in order for you to resolve this. So It's very, very situational. It does nothing going first. And my deck is a dedicated going first. I'm trying to put up as many interruptions as possible kind of deck. You know, you have cube boards with Borreload, Savage Dragon. Sometimes you're not under the restriction. But that's the main reason why I'm not playing this. This is a great card. It really is. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with this card except for the fact that Konami had to make it to where if your opponent controls a monster. I love that they make rogue archetypes like, and they give them support, and then they make a good card, and then they put a bad restriction on it, which keeps the card from being as good as it could be, and I really don't like that. But yeah, I chose Charge over that because they very similarly, they operate in very similar functions. They allow you to pitch something that you need, which is an extender in the graveyard, and then summon another body on board from your deck. But Charge is a lot better for me personally because it doesn't have that restriction, and it also enables more plays for summoning your Slayer with maximum effects because you have to trigger them from midfield. Don't forget that. So you summon your Revenants. But you send a zombie type from your hand or face up from your field as cost. And then you special summon one VENDREAD monster from your deck. And it doesn't have to be in defense, so you can produce more damage in your OTK pushes with this just summoning more bodies. Like especially tributing a Stride to summon a Revenant and using Stride to summon it back just to get more damage helps. But it's a really good extender because you will have hands where you're like, okay, I have this normal summon and this normal summon. All right, so this normal summon does have the most value, so I'm going to commit to this. But the problem is these two cards right here in my hand have only good effects if they're sent to the graveyard. Now, I can send one of them off of Unizombie, but the thing is I won't be able to send the other one unless I open up or somehow find a way to get access to VENDREAD Knights, which if I don't have it in my hand, I can't do that. Boom. Okay, well, let's go ahead and start playing VENDREAD Charge for our list because VENDREAD Charge solves all those problems, and it also alleviates a lot of the issues that you have when you're trying to get your VENDREAD Slayer with the maximum best effect. So it's a great supplement for so many different reasons. I'm playing one DDR. I was going to play two, but I just felt like it was a good one-of extender. I banished a lot, and DDR is better than Monster Reborn in this deck. That's why I chose it over Monster Reborn. Even though Monster Reborn Saki, it's super good with Zombie World. I just felt I literally have 3 Mizukis. I don't even care for my opponent's monsters. Like I don't like I care about mine. So Mizuki was the perfect Monster Reborn for me. And then one Foolish. It is a utility card. I mean, dude, Foolish is a toolbox all in itself. Like when you open Foolish, you have to really sit there and think about it. Like, man, there's so much I can do with this Foolish Burial right now. Let's make the best choice. The only trap that I'm playing, and I can play so many traps, bro. I've played Vampire Domination before because I'm normally ending with Sucker somewhere on the field. I've played VENDREAD Revolution. I played VENDREAD Daybreak. I have played so many different traps in this deck. I've played different ratios. Now, because of the SHIRANUI engine and how awesome this trap is with the SHIRANUI engine, I'm playing 3 of this. This card is insane. It normally allows you to go 2 for 2 on your opponent, but it has an amazing actual layering effect that you get in unison with the play where you get to banish a SHIRANUI from your deck. That can be Solitaire, special summon 1. That can be Spirit Master, pop another one so you pop 3 cards. That can be, oh, I need to draw, let me get that Squire. That can be so many different things that you want, which makes it that much more powerful. And tributing a zombie monster for cost makes it even better because there are certain zombies that you actually need in the grave in the first place, and they'll get you more layering plethoras of effects once they're in the grave. So the cost isn't even that bad either, especially when you tribute a VENDREAD Slayer. Like you use both his effects to interrupt your opponent's plays, then you tribute a Slayer. You get... I'm done. I'm done. Oh, all right. Let's go to the extra deck, you guys. So I'm actually playing 2 copies of Squire Saga. This card is nuts. I think that this card is amazing. I mean, absolutely insane. Like, oh my goodness, this card is broken, okay? This card, all the SHIRANUI synchros, you can only special them once per turn. That does not matter. Like, I literally love this card so much. Like, you can arguably put it back with some of the other cards, but the thing is, when you don't find a way to put it back with some of the other cards, and you don't have a way to bring it back, like, off from the graveyard for any reason, or if you end up banishing it from itself, because I'm going to tell you the effect, but, like, you end up having to, like, the second one ends up coming up to the point where you need it. That's why I played 2 of it. This card is broken, you guys. So, I introduced to you SHIRANUI Squire Saga. Alright, so, it's a generic level 7 synchro, so guess what? People playing the Strudel, of course, they're going to make cute plays with this, of course. They just had to make it generic. So, I'm going to read you its effects. So you can only special it once per turn. That's the restriction for all SHIRANUI synchros. So you can banish once per turn, banish 1 face-up monster you control or in your graveyard. Then apply these effects in sequence depending on what the monster was before it was banished, if any of those. So you know something awesome? Zombie World makes all monsters zombies. So if it was a zombie in the graveyard before it was banished, it won't be a zombie when it's banished, but it was a zombie before it was banished. I like that they added that. So you can banish practically anything with this card to get the zombie effects. So these are the 3 sequences effects. So if you banish a zombie monster, you can have all monsters you control gain 300 attack. That's actually pretty relevant. You'd be surprised. If it's a fire monster, you get to destroy a spell or trap on the field, doesn't target. If it's a synchro, destroy 1 monster on the field, doesn't target. Now, you think about all those effects and how they can be applied in sequence. What is the best card that you want to banish? You want to banish a Shiranui Synchro because they are fire zombie synchro types. They're literally, you're going to get all 3 of the sequencing effects from Shiranui Squire Saga. So what you want to do is you want to banish a Shiranui, fire synchro from your graveyard, your field. Heck, it's spot removal by itself. It allows you to go 2 for 1, which is nuts. Like, it basically allows you to out a spell, a trap, and a monster without targeting and get a boost. So there's literally nothing wrong with this card at all. Like, I couldn't ask for more. If they gave it anything else, it would be high-key broken. And we have 1 Susanaaga. Susanaaga is dope, you guys. This is a crazy, powerful boss monster. If you guys don't know what this card does, it actually is nuts. So, like, I'm reading these because Shiranuis aren't very popular. People have to know what they do. If this card special summon, return any number of your zombie-type synchro monsters that are banished or in your graveyard to the extra deck. Destroy a card your opponent controls equal to the number of cards returned. So this can be brought back off of Mizuki, but now because we got new support for Shiranuis, they have a link monster that can summon this on your opponent's turn, so you can interrupt their plays with Swallow Slash, and you can interrupt their plays with this, which gives you more disruptions. That's in addition to Doom King Baladrok, the VENDREAD Slayer, and any other disruption like even, for example, Borlo Savage Dragon, when you're not under the restriction of Oni zombies that you can make. So this card is nuts. So it basically has spot removal that doesn't target. It recycles all your stuff, which is nuts. If it's special summon, so once you properly summon it, you can do that as many times as you want. Then, if a zombie-type monster you control would be destroyed by battle card effect, banish a Shiranui monster from your graveyard instead. That's not even once per turn. It's like a permanent. As many times as you can banish, that's how many times you can use this Return of the Dragon Lord's effect. And when you banish Shiranuis, what do? You get layering effects, so you snowball into different advantage just by protecting your cards. And it's a 3,500 beater. Susanaaga is an OTK maker. It enables so much DPS, it's crazy. Even if you just want to hit this guy off of this, he's always going to be huge. Like, Susanaaga, you don't even need Boar Sword to OTK. I play Samurai Saga literally for the simple fact that he recycles stuff back into the deck so that I can enable some of my targets that require something valid in the deck in order for them to resolve. Other than that, he does have cute plays like stopping OTKs from happening, kind of disrupting in a little bit, but he's not that great. He's still a good card, though, for what it's worth. Those are the Shiranuis that I play. There are other ones, but I don't have all of them yet. Then we have Omega. We have Borlo Savage. The only time you're under the restriction of only zombies is when you resolve Glow Up Bloom, when you resolve the Squire. And then also, there's one other card that I can't remember right now, but those are the cards that put you under the restriction. But every single turn, you're not always going to be under that restriction, so that's why we're playing these, because you can easily put a Link monster in the graveyard, and you can still summon this in the same turn and get that Link monster back, and that just adds to the disruptions that you could put up on the board, and Omega's broken in this deck. We have this card because we need a way to win the time, and it's not bad having just a Raigeki. We have 1 copy of Hyper Psychic Riser. This card's broken. It's like a baby True King of all calamities, and it's a generic level 6. You can easily make this with this deck. You have so many different level tuners. You have level modifiers. It's nuts. This is 2 copies of Vampire Suckers. I have 0 now, so I'm proxying the Vampire Suckers. You go into these every single first turn. This card is a broken card in this deck. We have 1 copy of the new Shiranui Link monster. I'll explain what this card does. So it requires 2+ zombies, so easily you can make it even with no Shiranui monsters. You can make this card. Synchro monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. Fire monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle. Okay, so all your Shiranuis can't be destroyed by battle card effects. That's pretty dope. During your opponent's turn, quickie! Target one of your banished zombie synchro monsters, special it to your zone this card points to, which is nuts. So you can easily bring back any of these guys that got banished, and they banished themselves, so that's how it works. This is the best target to summon because you get a lot of disruptions off of it. And after that, it's going to remain on the field and protect all your zombie monsters, which is nuts. So yeah, I like one of this card. It's really good. It's a Link 3. For what it's worth, it's a great one-of, but I don't see myself playing more. It can be brought back off of Mizuki, so you really don't need more. And it can be recycled. And these are the only generic links that I'm playing in my extra deck. The extra deck is virgin type because of my choice on synchros, because I'm very synchro oriented with the way I play this deck. And these are like the main plays that you're making. That's the main summoning mechanic we're focusing on, and ritual summoning. Thank you guys very much for watching this deck before. I appreciate your patience, your understanding, and just hearing me out on my ratios, why I play the deck, and definitely just listening to my ridiculously long explanations. I appreciate you guys, and for what it's worth, I hope that you learned something from this deck profile. God bless you. Make good choices. Don't hurt your brain cells. Have a beautiful day. Stay positive, and you'll definitely be hearing from me soon. Peace out, you guys.